Good evening, good evening. I probably don't have it about 15 minutes and the lights are probably going to go off in here. Sorry for the lack of contact, lack of content. Again, I've just been dealing with life. My back issues seem to be behind me, no pun intended, but I'm not having issues with my back. That all seems to be going right now. I'm trying to be smart and not overextend myself or do something just, crazy. So far it seems to be working. I'm just out here kind of getting a check on things and looking at some of the new growths. Wow, it's doing really well. Everybody's caught up on being watered. I'm just out here checking on a few things before the lights go out. Wanted to say hello, tell everybody I'm still alive. One of these days I'm going to have to sit down and either I have to make a decision about my channel. I wasn't planning on having a long involved channel. I really wasn't planning on doing this. It just kind of happened. I was just documenting a few things because of what was going on at the time. Some things have changed, some things haven't. Some things have gotten better, some things haven't. Some things have gotten worse in some ways. But I'm going to have to sit down, I guess, because there's no way I can continue my channel without putting some personal, I guess, about what's going on. I mean, I mentioned that I have Parkinson's, and I mentioned quite a bit of stuff like that. But some of the reasons that I'm not around, it's a health issue is why I'm not around. I'm not, it's not for lack of content. I can always talk about nutrients. I love talking about nutrients. I can talk about that all day long. It's really just more from abilities. I have Parkinson's, like I've mentioned to everybody, but that's not my biggest issue. I want to say, I hate to say, I'm not going to say it's not my biggest issue, but it's not the only issue I deal with, and in some ways it's not the big issue. Again, I'm going to have to probably say something about it because it's just I wasn't trying to make my channel about that, but if I continue my channel, something eventually is going to happen here. And not that far into the future, I don't think. I'm not going to have a channel for 15 years or 10 years or 5 years. That's not going to happen. I'm here tonight just to tell everybody that I am okay. I'm doing all right. I've got some issues going on. I'll fill everybody in a little bit more on it later. No worries, everything will be fine. I'm in great hands, great hands. Let me just leave it at that. Not trying to put people in suspense or anything, just trying to figure out how to do some things here. Look at the size of some of these growths. Just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's that calcium. Well, it's the calcium, but the calcium and some other things added. Remember, when your plants are low on calcium, they lose the ability to be able to absorb magnesium. They lose the ability to be able to absorb iron. Iron, you will see light growth in the top of your plants. Magnesium deficiencies, you'll see lighter growth in the lower parts of the plant because one's mobile and one's immobile. So it can affect the plant in different ways. But if you're low in one, you're usually going to be affected in low in those other two, and so you can have symptoms that'll be compounded and won't look right. Makes trying to diagnose plants very difficult. This is that little real quick, because I hope I'm not going to run out of light here. This is that little Iwanagera that I almost threw away a couple of months back. I even did a video on it. One of the reasons I didn't throw this plant away was, if you look at it, it has some damage because it's gotten nicked and bumped a bunch of times, but it doesn't have any kind of streaks or circles or rings or black spots or anything that looks like a virus or some type of biotic infection, bacterial or whatever. But it doesn't have anything like that. But it just hasn't grown. It's just been stalled. It's just been sitting here for 6-7 months, not doing anything, nothing. When I started giving additional calcium a couple of weeks back, or a couple of months back, I should say, where I started giving it all the time, not so much increased my amounts, but started giving it all the time, one of the first things I noticed about this plant was, and that's one of the only reasons I kept it, was because it wasn't showing signs of issues. It was just stalled. But one of the first things I noticed was it started putting out new roots. I've got the green tips popping back out. Now it just came out of the water. It was soaking for the last couple of hours, so the roots look kind of dark right now. You can't really tell, but it started putting out new green root tips, and then it popped out this big fat growth on the side. And this is the first sign of life I've seen this plant in 6-7 months. So it just shows you that, and that's probably what the issue was. It was deficient in calcium. It also has a very light color compared to some of the other plants. Very, very light, I think, if you compare them. Very, very light. But I think that's, again, because if you're low in calcium, you're not going to be able to pull in magnesium and iron quite as well as you're supposed to. So that will affect photosynthesis, color, etc. See it? So I think the plant will probably darken up, color will change. I should get a lot better root growth now, and I think hopefully if that growth continues, the plant will take off and get a second chance here. But I'll start rambling. I get talking about nutrients. I'm like a bee to honey. I just go crazy. Sorry. I can't help it. It's the key to being able to diagnose your plants, and that's the number one issue people have, is they buy a plant and it has an issue, they don't know what to do with it. What's wrong with my plant? Diagnose it. So it's key knowing what the nutrients do and how the plant reacts to them, and how to get the plant responsive based on the nutrient is all key to being able to diagnose it. I love the big, look at the size of the growth here. This is that bag baby I had a couple of weeks ago, the Cattleya Monomoto. Let me put it down where you can see it, probably less shaking. But look real close if the camera will focus. Little tiny green roots popping out all over those older, dormant roots. The roots were still healthy, but just no sign of root tips. Very damaged, very beat up from being removed. And several large growths have popped out, but the root tips are really impressive. And with all the branching on them too. But there's 3 nodes coming out. There's a smaller second one next to that one right there, and then a big one coming out over here. But calcium related, I'm sure. I also added on these 2 particular ones, I added some. No, actually, I didn't give it to the other one. It just gave it to this one. I thought I gave it to both bag babies, but just this one. It also got some seaweed extract, that kelp. That stuff is full of all kinds of growth triggers and growth hormones, auxins, gibberellins, cytokines, and that stuff will trigger branching on the roots and a plant to grow straight and lean towards the light, and all kinds of behaviors it'll trigger in a plant, including growth and going dormant and producing, turning starches into sugars, energy for the plant, etc., etc., etc. But cytokines, one of the things that cytokines do will trigger a dormant node, such as you're seeing on the roots there, to help with the branching. That's a good example. Cytokine is cakey paste. They put it on a flower spike, on phalaenopsis or stuff, or they can rotate around the bases on the nodes, the dormant nodes of a cattleya and stuff, and you'll get multiple growths around them. It helps to trigger growths. That's one of the things that cytokines will do. It triggers the dormant nodes on a plant, whether it's roots or spikes or growth buds or whatever. But those seaweeds are full of stuff like that. Another good product, or another good supplement to add to your routine. Again, just looking at it. Big fat, nice fat sheaths coming up, big growths. Those cats are still blooming, but they're fading. Not much left on them, but they all have some new growths and lots of roots coming out down at the bottom. So I feel much, much better about the plants going outside this year. Last year I was excited to get them outside, but I really didn't have a lot of knowledge about how orchids grow and how what type of nutrition they need. I was afraid to give them too much nutrition, so I probably starved them most of last summer. And being in intermediate, I don't have a lot of reserves, so I have smaller growths last year, and probably one of the reasons I didn't get a lot of blooms this winter, but a lot of it has to do with maturity, I think, of the plants. So this year when they go out, I've had them for a year, some of these, And not a lot of these, but coming on a year, most of them. They were all bag babies when I first got them, little ones. But they've started to mature now, gotten some really nice growth on them last fall, and even better this winter, I think. And that's one of the things I'm excited about is this spring and summer outside ought to be really, really good growth. I'm working on a couple of things, hopefully outside, a little bit better shade house set up for my entire patio out there. A shade netting for over the top of it. Hopefully I'm going to get that installed here in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to do video on some of that too as I come about that. But I think with all the information that I've learned over the past couple of months, put that to the use. With all the growing that's going to be happening over the next couple of months, I'm hoping to really get these plants some size and fattened up, and reserves built up strong, so they're ready to give me some blooms this fall, really, really nice blooms this fall and this winter, and make them even stronger going into next spring again. So, plus I think it'll help weed out some of the weak ones. I think between now over the next couple of months, anything that's not real healthy or is having issues is going to struggle when it probably first gets outside because of the temperatures and all the rain and everything else. So, survival of the fittest, maybe. Anyway, let me get back to it. I'm still watering, still adjusting a few things, but just marveling at all the growth, size of some of these. Great big thick growths. Remember, you can give all the calcium in the world, but unless you give nitrogen along with it, you know, if you're low on nitrogen, you can you can take so much of your reserves from the bottom of your plant, from your lower older leaves. I mean, you want to make sure when you boost your calcium levels up, because at that point your plant will start triggering growth, because it starts to trigger those cell structures to start stacking up. If you don't have nitrogen and the other nutrients coming up behind it to help fill in those cell structures, you can get some really wonky looking growth. Really short and distorted, twisted growth, slow growth, but it'll also starve the older parts of the plant, will turn yellow and start to die off. So make sure if you're going to give the extra calcium, you're going to give the extra nitrogen. And if you're going to give all the nutrients like that, you need to make sure that your environment is conductive to growing it. Right? You don't want to do that when you're in cool temperatures and your plants are dormant. If you get my drift, your plants are trying to grow and look like they're trying to grow and putting roots out, and it's warmer temperatures. By all means, adjust your feed, to stimulate and encourage them. So this is that other bag baby, that Dendrobium speciosum. I don't think I've mentioned this one again. I took it out of the container. It was in some really, really poor, rotted, broken down bark, and I put this one in limestone. I don't have any other plants in limestone. One of the reasons I put this one in limestone is in their natural habitat, they pretty much grow on solid pieces of limestone sometimes. They're found around limestone, on limestone, in limestone. This is in small pieces of limestone, just like what you'd find in a parking lot or in your driveway. This hasn't been in a parking lot or driveway. This was in a big pile that was going to be used for underfill, so it's clean. I washed it, and then let it dry, put it in here. This type of stone like this will do a couple of things. This is what Alabama's famous for. This is what's underneath our ground all over the place. Regardless, easy to find down here. What this will do is it'll keep the pH a little more neutral, a little more towards the neutral zone, 7.0, a little more towards the neutral instead of the acidic side. And it also will provide a tiny little bit of calcium and a tiny little bit of magnesium, trace amounts of it all the time present, which these plants apparently need or like, because that's where they seem to accumulate, is around the limestone outcroppings and stuff. So I did a little research. Hopefully I made a good decision here. It had not really great roots, not what I could see really live, vibrant, nothing green, nothing with any growing tips on it, but what roots were down there weren't rotted and just black and falling off. So they're being used to anchor it. It also has a little metal pin, metal clip attached to it, that's more centered in the center of the pot. The growth should come out this direction, I hope. So hopefully it'll do real well. The purpling is genetics underneath the leaves, so I'm not concerned about that. It looks good. It has plenty of reserves, it looks like, in the older canes. And I am giving it some water, but just a little bit. I don't know. I guess the plant might be dormant. It might need some warmer temperatures to stimulate it or trigger it. I'm not sure. Never grown it, but I don't know what it was exposed to. It may have been exposed to some cooler temperatures, and I have a feeling it was. And so it's just now getting warm temperatures, starting to get some calcium exposed to it, a few things. So I'm expecting something to happen. So I'll keep an eye on it and let everybody know. That big growth back in that bandful there, back there. canes coming up on this one. Anyway, like I said, let me get back to it. Thanks for all the comments, all the questions, all the thoughts, all the concern. Appreciate it. I'm waiting to get outside so I can start filming more. It's a lot easier for me than inside here. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.